Hello guys, welcome back to our discussion today, and we will be moving on with the last lesson for coastlines before we do our case study. And this is all about coastal management. In some other words, you will see that coastal management will be similar to coastal defenses or protection of the coasts. So these concepts will be similar. So protection of the coastline, coastal management, and coastal defenses will be the other means of or other words to describe this lesson. Okay? So first things first, you must prepare your books with you. You must have a notebook and a pen for you to take note of important things that we will be discussing today. If you need to pause the video to take note, you can do that, and you can also repeat this video for further understanding of the concepts in here. If you have questions, write them down and address them to me in WhatsApp so I could answer and explain further about these information. So let's get started. Coastal management. So coastal management are all the ways that people do so that they can save, they can protect, or they can take care of the coastline. We all know that it is very natural for the sea to continue on moving, and when there are storms, it may flood or destroy the coastline. So people need to protect this because we have lots of uses and benefits from it. And sometimes there are establishments or properties, buildings and homes that are already there along the coastline, and when it gets eroded or it gets destroyed, then definitely the lives of people are affected. That is why coastal management is important, so that we know what can we do to protect the coastline from being eroded or being taken away by the sea. So we have three possible ways of coastal management or techniques. Number one is hard engineering. Number two, we have soft engineering, and then we have what we call a managed realignment. I will be discussing them, all three of them today. Please get ready. Hard engineering techniques. It involves building permanent, rigid structures. When we say permanent, it will be there for a long period of time, okay? Something that could stay and last very long. Rigid are strong structures, so we have to create something that is strong and can last for a very long period of time. This technique, the hard engineering technique, are traditional form of coastal defense. This is what a lot of people for many years have been doing so that they can manage and save the coastline. And what they do is, they reflect the waves, they send the waves back to the sea. Two, they deflect the wave or change the direction of the waves. And three, they absorb the energy of the wave so that it will not touch or it will not cause further damage to our coastline. Again, hard engineering or these coastal defenses can reflect, deflect, and absorb the energy of the waves. So an example of a hard engineering will be seawalls. Seawall is a structure that is built along the coastline to keep the sea out so that the sea will not be touching the coastline at all. So it's like a barrier, it's like a wall. Well, it's called a seawall because it's covering or shielding the coastline from the strong waves. And as you can see, it is curved because it can deflect or change the direction of the waves, and it will also reflect or just send the waves back. We also have what we call revetments. These are fences that are created along the coastline before these cliffs, and they will be the one that will be battered or will be touched by the waves instead of the cliff. So they will be absorbing the energy of the wave. We also have what we call an artificial reef or an offshore breakwater. What they do is, instead of the waves to break within the coastline, they cause the waves to break far away from the shore. So that means it will release the energy earlier before it touches the coastline. Now here is an artificial reef. So before it goes towards the beach, the waves will now break. It will create the swash. The swash before it comes into the shoreline. So that means energy is now lower or lesser. So that means erosion will not happen that much. In this picture, this is an offshore breakwater. Again, it's very self-explanatory with the word. Offshore means away or not in the shore. Breakwater is just breaking of water. So these things here, these lines in here, are the breakwaters. It means when waves come, instead of clashing or destroying or breaking along this coastline, it will break here. So once it breaks in here, the energy of the wave is becoming lesser before it touches the coast. So these will absorb the energy of the waves. We also have rock armors. Now in some other books, like in your revision book, this rock armor is listed along soft engineering, but most of the books will have rock armor under hard engineering because they are hard. They soak up the energy of the wave, so they are put before the cliff so that once the waves come, they will not push or to destroy or to break the soil here. Instead, they will be clashing and be absorbing the energy here in the rocks. And then we also have the another hard engineering, which is what we call the gabions. These are big or large cages or wires with rocks inside. So they come in like blocks of rocks inside wires, so that you can put them all together like Lego, like this, along the cliffs, so that when storms and high tides and strong waves come, it will not again touch the coastline or your cliff here, but instead it will crash through these gabions and will lose its energy from there. All right, and now we have the soft engineering techniques. It involves building less rigid and often more sustainable. Less rigid means weaker or less strong, and they are cheaper and can be environmentally friendly. So this soft engineering techniques are a little bit cheaper compared to, well, not really a little bit, but it's significantly cheaper compared to hard engineering techniques. Example of this will be groins. Now groins again are like walls that are perpendicular to the coastline because they don't want the sand to be eroded or taken away from the beaches. So they will trap the sand from being transported or being carried away. We also have beach nourishment. This is like the total opposite of dredging. So dredging, you take away the sand from the coastline and use it to something else to build walls and pavements and many other infrastructures. On the other hand, beach nourishment is giving more sand along the beach. You could take it from rivers or from depositions of sand along streams and in mountains, and you bring them towards the beach so that you will have more and more land along the coastline. And then we also have cliff stabilization. Now, cliff stabilization is basically putting holes or drains from these cliffs. What they do is that when rain and when water penetrates to the cliff, it will not take away the land. Instead, they will go through these holes. So it's like a strain or a drainage system, so that water will not take away the land. You know, when there's rain, there's what we call infiltration and percolation in the sand, wherein water penetrates towards the soil, and when that happens, it becomes heavier, and when it's heavier, it can be moving away, or it might chip off from the cliff. So cliff stabilization, not only that you put holes so that water can come out from there, but you can also create a concrete, or you can make it stronger by creating layers of, or by putting layers of concrete towards the cliff. So the word stabilization came from the word stable, to stabilize or to make it stronger. So it stops the cliff from collapsing or from tipping off towards the sea. And last one, we have managed realignment. So we have hard engineering, we have soft engineering, and we have managed realignment. Okay, so basically we learned about this last year. It means that the old coastline needs to be removed, or the establishment along the old coastline shall be removed to inwards towards the land. So say for example, in this photo, we have here these buildings, okay, and this was the old coastline. Because the coastline is retreating, is being eroded, what they do is to remove all of this and relocate them inwards, move them farther away. So this is the old coastline. This zone is often eroded and flooded. So what they do, they move these establishment properties, homes, and other things farther away from the coastline. So that is managed realignment. So again, we have many ways to protect, to defend, and to manage our coastline. And we have three techniques. We have hard engineering technique, we have soft engineering technique, and we have managed realignment. Three of them can be done depending on the extent of the damage it may cause, and it requires a lot of planning for the government. So today's activity, you need to look into ThinkWave and look for this activity name, Discussion Coastal Management. For me to make sure that you listened and watched this video, you have to answer this question and send it back to me on ThinkWave, and to give you points as well. Now, creating or protecting the coastline requires a hard engineering technique, a soft engineering technique, or a managed realignment. Now, my question to you is, why do you think making or doing these techniques require a careful planning? Why do we need to plan all of this carefully? Or why do you need that the government needs to plan all of these things carefully? So you have to explain your answers using a paragraph and send it to me, or paragraph with at least 5 sentences, and then send it to me on ThinkWave. Okay? Thank you very much for listening today, and I will be creating another video all about our case study for the coastline. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day.